Welcome to another edition of the Demon Huddle. Be a little shorter version this week. The Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial Group, joined as always by Northwestern State head coach Blaine McCorkle. And coach, what's the saying? Is that the years are short but the days are long? I think is what the saying is. But one more week left in this year, first year at Northwestern State. Before we get to that, we'll touch on Saturday's game against McNeese, and it just seems like it's becoming the same story. Kind of the 11th verse this time was moments where you feel you're in the game, and then you see the margin for error just continue to winnow down.
Yeah, it is. I think you're exactly right with your saying. The days and the weeks do seem very, very long, but this year has flown by for sure. It's hard to believe that we're in the final week of the season already. And it has been a grind, and it hasn't been easy, and Saturdays haven't been a lot of fun. But the work and the process, I will say, to a degree, has been rewarding because I do think we know and recognize where we're going. And this week you mentioned it's kind of the 11th verse of the same song. Every game has had a very, very similar flow to it. Our kids show up, they fight, they play hard, and as the game wears on, we just get a little bit outmanned. I think that's where we are. I think somebody made the comparison to a lot of times when FCSs play FBS games. You show up and you fight hard, and you're kind of in the game for a while. And then the attrition and the size and the strength and the depth starts to mount up and the game separates. And that's exactly where we are. It's no secret because of where we've come from and the deficits that we have. That's really what we are right now. We play so many young guys and new guys, or guys that guys that stayed, maybe are first-time starters. So as you go through it, it's a grind. It is that. But our kids haven't wavered. They continue to work hard. And we got one more shot at this thing, and we're going to go to Houston this Saturday and give those guys everything we got.
You mentioned the FBS matchups. You had two of them earlier this year, and I think if you in a perfect world, and no one's going to go through an 11-game season, let alone a 12-game season without injuries. Do you ever think back and go, okay, if we'd have, in a perfect world, stayed healthy, our top 22 guys stay healthy, do you ever allow yourself to think about that, or do you don't worry about that?
Yes and no. I mean, when injuries happen, you hate it for the kid in the moment, but you have to move on. If you sit there and you dwell on those things for too long, you run in circles and you make yourself miserable, and you can't operate that way. You have to be tough enough to, wake up in the morning, put your boots on, and go back to work with whatever hand you're dealt. But I think, and we may discuss this more later in a week or whatever, but as you go back and look at the entirety of the season and where we came from, our schedule was not conducive to restarting a program, And I think, if you go back over the course of the year, I don't know that we truly ever recovered from the Prairie View game, to be honest with you. That was a game that we felt like we had a chance to win. We lost it on the last play of the game, controversial call. I think our players put everything that they had into that game, and then you have a short week, a 5-day week, and you go to South Alabama, and the wheels kind of fall off, and there are some injuries from that game that, we still haven't completely recovered from. But you can't worry about that. You gotta play the hand you're dealt, do the best you can, and wake up every morning and go back to work. But I think when the season's over and we recap everything fully, I think there will be a lot of lessons learned there for a lot of people on how to go about building a program, restarting a program, and kind of where you go next in the future with scheduling and plans and things like that.
Also, I think, when you go through the maturation process, you've talked about how young this team is. If you're a senior-laden team or an upperclassman-laden team, as tough as that Prairie View game is, you've talked about it, not being able to see past your face mask in the situation. But even as a junior and senior, if you're a heavier team, balanced heavier on that end, probably a little bit easier for those guys to shake it off and move forward.
Yeah, you would hope it is, but I think for us, a lot of our juniors and seniors, and there aren't many of them, we honored 8 seniors the other day, and only one of them has started every game this year. Even those guys, sometimes if they're first-time starters and they're kind of new to the fight, there's still a different maturation process, a different learning curve. I was kind of laughing, Sunday morning I walked into church after the McNeese game, and somebody grabbed me and said, "Coach, if your whole team was 2 years older, you might have won by 5 touchdowns." And I appreciated the comment, but in a sense, he's kind of exactly right. It's kind of, we laugh a lot of times about the guys that were sent out in the game aren't even shaven yet, and they're playing some grown men, and you saw that in McNeese. I mean, there were some well-developed grown men out there, and we've got to get older, we've got to get bigger, we've got to get stronger, and that's no secret. You can just turn on the film, or you can watch us in pregame warm-ups and look at one end, look at ours, and know that that's where we've got to go. But the good news is, I think the majority of our team will be back. I'm really excited about that. I don't think we're going to have a lot of attrition. You're always going to have some naturally, and that's okay. If people don't want to be a part of this program, well, God bless you, we'll see you. We want people that are excited to be at Northwestern State. So I don't think we'll have a lot of attrition, and we've got a fantastic strength coach, and he's got a great plan to build some mass, build some size, build some strength, and have those guys that are returning in a lot better position next year than they were this year.
I think I need to go to him and shave off a few pounds. To get
Hey, he'll take all comers. Yeah, he'll throw you in there. Be careful what you ask for, though.
Exactly. You got to pace myself. A little bit
That's
older
right.
than these guys now.
That's right.
The McNeese game, we talked about it, and one guy that you and I talked about post game, and we've talked about several times on here with you, with Matt Connor, Caesar McGee III.
Yeah.
I mean, he has had probably, you can count on maybe both hands about the attempted interceptions he's had. He finally pulls in 2 more Saturday, but as much as anything, I think of the play of him running down, whether it was Strong or Barbie, he made a long run, crossed the field, ends up dragging a guy down at the 10 or 15 after a big run in a game that on the scoreboard was probably over, just kind of indicative of the guy he is.
Yeah, it is. And we're real proud of Caesar and what he's done and what he's become. He is an exceptional talent. He's a great football player. There's no question about that, and those things are obvious. But what he's turned it into is an awesome young man. And that's been really cool to see in the 11 months we've been here, his maturation process with those things as well. And big picture, those are the things that are allowing him to be successful in the field. Because I think the lack of that in the past sometimes is why guys aren't successful. But as he's figuring out life and he's growing up and he's becoming a man and handling his business, you're seeing more production from him on the field. And the two definitely go hand in hand. So really proud of that. I think he's got 3 interceptions on the year, and he didn't play the first handful of games. So he's doing that with a short season on his end. So he's a guy that will be back for a senior year next year, and I think he will be dominant for us. I think he fits our system. I think this is a really good place for him at the right time in his life, and it's going to be fun to see what happens to him in the future. I think he's got a really bright future in football beyond here.
9 games, 3 picks. He leads the conference in passes defended per game. He's in the top 25, I believe, nationally. Oh, and by the way, it's his first year at corner.
That's right.
So he's got a lot of growth still to go.
Sure. Yeah, he's still learning the position, and I think he recognizes about that about himself is he's really just scratching the surface. And once he gets a full year in our system, last year he didn't really go through spring practice with an injury, so really he had training camp, missed a couple games, and then jumped in there. I mean, he's just scratching the surface on what he can become, and it's going to be fun to watch him next year continue to develop.
We've talked about Blake Gocher, but I think one of the guys that maybe we haven't talked about as much, and a guy that has as much potential probably as anybody's, Chancellor Owens. He had himself a really solid game. I know it was 35-3, gave a lot of rushing yards, but he had a couple of moments where it just flashed that you could see exactly what has you guys so excited about him.
Yeah, really talented player, and I think he's got a great future in the game as well. He's just a redshirt freshman. He's got 3 years to go with us. And he's out there, fighting his tail off and making plays, and he's only sitting at about 242 right now. So I fully expect him, by spring practice to be in the 260 range and holding it steady. And he'll be a completely different player, and he's pretty dominant right now. But he's a guy that I feel like is really kind of bought into our program. He enjoys being a part of our program. He believes in what we're doing. He comes to work every day. Coach G does a great job with him, with that whole group. He had a great day Saturday, and hopefully he and Caesar both can finish the season off next week with a similar performance.
We didn't touch. You just mentioned Coach Chris Gistor was the one guy you held on to from this staff, from the previous staff. How has his acclimation into your staff, into this program, your vision for this program been?
Incredible. I think Coach G is exactly what we need right now, and he is the one holdover from the staff. And as I go back and look, if there was one guy to hold over, we picked the right guy. I've told the story a lot. When I first came in, I met with all the previous staff, and most of them went their separate ways, whatever. But I was in a meeting with Coach G by himself and didn't know him, had never met him, and we're just sitting there just kind of talking for a few minutes, and I just kind of stopped him. I was like, Coach G, I don't know you, I just met you, but there's something about your spirit I just like. And you could just tell in 5 minutes that guy needs to be a part of our program because he's an incredible football coach. He's intense, he's tough, he holds his guys accountable. They do what he tells them to do. He demands excellence, there's no doubt. But he's got a very tender heart, and he loves these kids. And I think with everything that this place has been through and what we're still going through, he's the right guy at the right time to keep here, and it's just phenomenal what he does, and really glad he's part of our program.
One of those guys he's toured has been Johnny Mitchell, and I know he was kind of in and out Saturday just because of the way the game played out, but you could definitely tell there's a difference when Big 95's in there.
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah, he wasn't able to play in the second half with some injury stuff. He's fine. He'll be good to go this week, so not worried about that. But when he went down, there was definitely a difference in the game. Forced us to play a little bit different style on defense and move the front a little bit more. And weren't able to protect Blake as much. That's a big part of it, and that's real, and Blake would tell you that. So him not being in there, that it hurts. It hurts, and he's a good football player, and hopefully he's back up and healthy, and he should be full speed this week, and we can get a full 4 quarters out of him because it is definitely different when he's in there.
I'll say this. We watched Blake Gocher have his first interception as a Demon Saturday. He ran angry after picking that ball off. I think he almost pancaked an offensive lineman.
That's right. Blake lives angry, and we're okay with that. Yeah. Yep.
I mean, we've seen guys all different positions. You put him in at fullback and try to get a
there's no doubt.
one.
Yeah, I think he could do it. But no, he's a good football player, and he defines Mike linebacker. That's for sure. He's got the long hair, and he's grumpy, and he's in a bad mood, and he's out there to hurt something. And whether he's got the ball in his hands or he's trying to tackle you, he's full speed.
Well, we talked about the atmosphere at home. It was, it's been kind of up and down. You had a really few good games of atmosphere here early. End of the season, things tend to taper off pretty much anywhere you go. You're going to go to one of the more unique environments in all of FCS football Saturday, your first trip to HCU. I know you were in your office looking at kind of the stadium map the other day, and we were talking about it. Have you ever seen anything quite like it?
Yeah, actually I have. When you're outside of that Power 4 realm, you're going to see some different things sometimes. And I've been in a few one-sided stadiums. I know when I was at Tennessee Martin and when I was at Chattanooga, both, we played at Western Kentucky, and at the time they had a one-sided stadium. I've been to Murray State a couple times. They've got a one-sided stadium that is massive, but you look right across at Walmart. So you do see those things at this level sometimes, and it's neat, it's unique. You like seeing those different places, but haven't been to Houston Christian before. But looking forward to making that trip. And I know there's a CVS right behind us, so if Cal and the training crew need something, if they're short on supplies, they can jump the fence and they got what they need. So, but no, those things happen at FCS. Everywhere's different, unique, and that's what makes it fun.
Kind of funny to talk about it. You've been at Western Kentucky and having played there, and people do forget for a while it was like built into a hill.
That's right.
Hilltoppers is an apt name for Western Kentucky.
It is, yeah. Right behind you was just a drop-off. There's just a field right there. But they got a big, beautiful stadium now. But yeah, for years they had this the one-sided thing, and it was kind of weird.
It's kind of funny to think that's only been 25 years ago, too.
That's right.
I mean, kind of showing our age here because I'm in the same boat, been there about maybe the same time. We may have crossed paths in a former life. Crossing paths, let's jump into this. Jason Bechtel, HCU's head coach. We were talking before we came on camera. You guys, you got some history between you.
Yeah. Coach Bechtel and I go back. I consider him a friend in the profession. He was at Howard Payne when I was at Belhaven, and we had some great games and a really good rivalry there. What's interesting is he took over for Braxton Harris there, and he took over for Braxton Harris at Houston Christian both. With the his first 2 years at Howard Payne, we played twice, once in the COVID season, the final game of the year, and had a great game, and we were able to come out ahead. And then the next year, we went over there again. We went over there back-to-back and played them. They were 6-0 and had a really, really good team, great quarterback, great receiver, and we were able to pull away the win there and kind of end their undefeated season. So it's been a great series between our two staffs and our two teams, and hopefully that continues this week. But good guy, good football coach. His guys are always really well prepared. They play really, really hard, and I got a lot of respect for what they do. And I was thinking about calling him this week since we do have a little bit of friendship, and maybe the winner gets to shave the other one's head. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We got the same haircut too. So, but good guy, and a lot of respect for him. It's been kind of fun for both of us to transition from that league to this one together, and we bounce some ideas off each other, and what's different, what's new, and how are you handling these things. And great guy, but I'm excited to compete against him again on Saturday for sure.
Well, the good news is if you do the shaving of the head, you can run to CVS, grab you a razor, grab you some shaving cream.
Yeah, we won't need anything. We'll be good to go. Yeah, we'll both be clean. So.
When you do look at HCU, it's been kind of Coach Bechtel, you kind of know what to expect from him, but I think people that have watched from week in, week out this year may have a hard time putting their finger on exactly who the Huskies have been.
Yeah, they've had an interesting year as he's building that thing. They've had some really, really signature wins. They beat McNeese, they beat Nichols, in a wild game down to the wire. It was a fun game to watch if you're a fan. So they had a tough loss this week at East Texas A&M. Got to say that for the first time. So that was a tough one, and I'm sure they'll be fired up and ready to bounce back from it. But as you watch the film, Coach Bechtel definitely has his thumbprint on that team. When I look at it, I see some similar things to what you would expect out of a team coached by him, both in scheme and in effort and intensity, and then the way they play hard. His teams always play really, really hard, and I respect their effort. Their defensive coordinator actually was at Hardin Simmons, who was also in that league. So there's a little crossover there too. And he was actually on Coach Joseph's staff at Mississippi College. So there's a lot of similarities. I'm sure they're turning on our film doing the same thing, saying, oh, that's exactly what we saw at Belhaven, or what they might have seen from Coach Joseph in the past with some things. So coaching's a small world. There's a lot of crossover there, and but it's nice to see some things familiar and kind of know where to go.
When you do head down there, I mean, what the challenge in playing in a unique environment? You talked about playing at Western Kentucky. You talked about playing at Murray. In 2019, when we went up to UT Martin, their far stands their opposing side had been condemned.
Yeah.
So it ended up being kind of a one-sided thing. Atmosphere does, we talked about it, playing a large role. It's a different way to play down there.
It is, and I think for some people that may affect more than our guys right now. I think our guys, they will play in a pasture or a parking lot right now. We just want to play and try to find a way to get that first win. And, I think, that may be to our advantage right now with where our program is as opposed to some other people. When McNeese went in there, they just came off of a big road win at Weber State. Then you go in there and it's a little bit different feel. But, you can make or not make as much as you want out of the atmosphere. I don't think it will be a big factor on our kids because we truly are at a point where we just want to play and get better and try to compete to win. So good for us, I guess, in a sense that we're just showing up to play at 2 o'clock in Houston, Texas, and it's going to be 77 degrees and sunny, and should be a great day for football.
We touched on it, and we'll end up with this one. 8 seniors, we honored them ahead of Saturday's game. It's their last game, so I mean, there's going to be some emotions there, and for the most part, when given the chance, they performed.
That's right.
On Saturday, Chance Newman almost came up with
almost
mossed somebody down toward the end.
Right,
but the guys that had their moments, Twan was in, saw Micah Jernigan got the start. Chance to kind of say thank you to those guys again.
Yeah, it is, and we tried to do that Saturday against McNeese and Senior Day, is create some things for all those guys. Q, we tried to throw him a touchdown pass too. We had the trick play where we sent Q on the wheel route and tried to hit it. Didn't work, but we gave it a shot. And you always want to try to honor those guys late in the year, and they'll all have opportunities again this week. One of them that I want to kind of highlight in that group, if you watch the film from Saturday, Stevie Ballard probably played the best game of his career against McNeese Saturday. And, our offensive line as a whole, it's no secret, has struggled throughout the year. It's no secret. Everybody knows we've had our issues there. But I think the last 2 weeks, they've really started to come into their own and maybe played their best football, even though some numbers may not show that. And you may watch the live stream, or if your game may not recognize that. But when we turn on the film, we see some things up front that we haven't seen all year, and it's really encouraging. But Stevie Ballard particularly, he played his heart out Saturday, and he was intense, he was focused, he was trying to finish people off, and hopefully he'll do that this week, and hopefully all those 7 other seniors do as well. So that's one thing we've really challenged that group with is you've had a tough career, you've gone through things that nobody should ever go through as a college football player, and our AD kind of recognized that at Senior Day too, and kind of offered some things of thank you to them because it was really, really easy for 40-plus guys to bail out of here. It took some toughness and some manning up a little bit to make the decision to stay, and those 8 guys did. So we really challenged them. Look, you've made it this far. Finish well. Finish with your head held high and your chest up, and being proud that forever you will be linked as a Northwestern State football player. And there's a lot to that, and I think they will.
And I think you said it maybe best. You said it last week that they're forever going to be a part of when this thing gets going again. That you can point to those 8 and the guys who were here this year and say thank you for getting the rock rolling the right way.
That's exactly right, and that's kind of what I mentioned that Kevin said to him before the game. I'll keep that between him and them, but he offered them something really, really valuable and nice for their future that they can know and rest assured that when we win our next conference championship, I didn't say if, I said when we win our next conference championship, they can watch that thing and have a lot of pride and say, hey, I helped bring that thing back to where it once was, and know that they're a huge piece of relaying the foundation of what's a very, very proud program.
Well, you'll get one more chance to lay a foundational win, hopefully, Saturday at HCU, 2 o'clock. We will be back next week to wrap things up. For Blaine McCorkle, I'm Jason Pugh. It's been another edition of the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial Group.